Hello and welcome to another custom figure video. I'm Norva Ragnor and today I'll be sharing the steps I took in creating a Luigi Cross Gears custom.
Oh.
First appearing in 1983, the younger twin brother of Mario has become somewhat of a mainstay within the Mario roster. Luigi is usually controlled by player 2, but in recent years has had a successful run of solo games, mainly Luigi's Mansion. Taking the helm and becoming the new hero when Mario becomes unavailable. With a solo trilogy and many other solo games under his belt, he has also become one of the favourites among the Mario cast of characters. Growing up as the middle child, I always related more to Luigi, often being the forgotten one. I was often player 1 when playing with cousins, but when possible I would always choose Luigi over any other character. He is my main in Mario Kart and all other party style and sport games that Mario has taken part of. I enjoy his goofiness over Mario's competence. I just wish I could sleep as easily as he does. I'll be using Luigi from the Super Mario Bros. Toy line. And just like in my Mario custom, the only part I'll be using is the head. The Super Mario Bros. Movie toy line has recently just come out, so there may be a possibility of creating a more gritty, realistic version of my Mario customs, but that's a possible custom for another time. Here and now, we're building us a Luigi. The Luigi figure itself is pretty well done. It has decent articulation and looks great, and just like the Mario custom, the spare parts here will be used, so stay tuned for that. Originally, I was going to use another spare Marcus Phoenix body, but one of the few differences between Mario and Luigi is their body types. Mario is a little bit more plump or stocky, whereas Luigi is a bit more on the leaner side. He's taller too, but the figures I'm working with are on a 7-inch scale. So to keep in line with the visual difference, I had a look at my spare body parts box. We all have one, to see what I could use. This was when I came across the ideal figure. The 2013 spin-off game, handled by People Can Fly, only had one figure model created by NECA, which was of Damon Baird. A lot of the Judgment Baird figures came out with a set of cog tags. For us Gears collectors, I'm sure we all have many sets lying around. This figure really helps give the leaner look that was needed for Luigi, as it's not as bulky as the armour used for Marcus. Gears of War characters are all absolute units, so trying to find a figure within the Gears range that suited the body type I needed was a bit of a concern. But I feel that this figure will give me the best look while also keeping the feel of being in the Gears universe. This is another greatly detailed Gears figure by NECA. As the years go by, NECA's figures get better and better. Judgment was a spin-off from the mainline games that focused on the early days of Emergence against the Locust. And the focus was all on Baird and Kilo Squad, who defy orders to fight and save Halvo Bay. I don't need the head, but that will be used later on with the rest of the Luigi parts. This figure also comes with additional hand tools that go perfectly with the fact that Luigi is also a plumber. I've said it a few times already, so apologies for sounding like a broken record. I'm sure I've repeated certain words many a time by this stage in the video. Just as I did in my Mario custom, I did some prep work for my Luigi custom. The original plan was simply just to do Mario, but after the prep work and getting the parts, I fell into one of Mario's pipes, fell into a multitude of Mario and Gears crossover plans and parts. I prepped the same way, by using an image of Marcus Phoenix and Luigi, and slapped that glorious tash onto the body of Phoenix, while also colouring the armour in Luigi's colours to give me that final look. I also used Luigi's 30th anniversary logo that I believe was an unlockable item in the Super Mario World 3D game to give Luigi his very own logo. I added the iconic Crimson Omen from the Gears games, shaded it green, placed the 2 on a green background. Difficult stuff. Now, let's get to building Luigi.
Here we go.
I give Luigi a nice relaxing bathe in boiling water to loosen the plastic. This ensures that when the head is removed, it reduces any risk of damaging the figure. Just be careful not to spill it on you or burn your fingers. With Luigi perfectly decapitated,
Wow, 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 wow.
now it's time to do the same to the sarcastic blonde wonder, Damon Baird.
Friggin' moron. I'm dying here!
I leave the parts to dry and re-harden. Now the body and armour is ready to be painted. I use my usual brand of paint, Citadel Colour, and use Calidor Sky Blue. Before I begin painting, I remove the hand tool accessories that come from this figure that I mentioned earlier. In game, Baird is an engineer and is always tinkering with scrap, and seeing as how Luigi is a plumber, it works out perfectly as a little extra. Happy accidents. I'll place these somewhere safe for later on. Now I can finally make a start on the painting and get this custom looking the way it's supposed to. This figure has a lot more fabric texture, especially in the legs, which caused a slight difficulty in painting. I was expecting this figure to take 2 or 3 layers at most, but due to the paint not covering as much as I thought, it ended up taking 5 or 6 layers. Whereas Marcus is mostly covered in flat steel-like layers representing armour, so the paint went on a lot more smoother and easier. It wasn't a big issue in terms of creating the figure, just a small issue that I wasn't expecting, so I spent a bit more time on painting his body than I had originally intended to do so. I paint the majority of the lower body, dabbing on the fabric texture while covering it with as many layers as needed to give me a good coverage overall. This is the same blue I used for my Mario custom, except I didn't mix in any other blue, so it will be a bit of a different tone to Mario, which isn't a bad thing. Given how gritty the world of Gears is, having different toned armour helps with that look, plus Luigi usually has a darker tone colour than Mario. I'd love to have a Gears and Mario crossover game, having Mario and Luigi running their usual courses but with the armour and weapons from Gears. It would drastically change the tone of the game, that's for sure. I doubt Bowser would keep taking the princess if Mario and Luigi showed up rocking the Lancer and Hammer of Dawn, but mind you, Bowser would be a bigger rum wielding a Troika. Like I said earlier on, Gears of War Judgment was a spin-off game that was released in 2013. At the time, Epic Games owned the rights to Gears of War and gave the company People Can Fly the chance to create their own Gears game. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the control changer, forcing it to feel more like a Call of Duty game than a Gears game. The story wasn't much to get excited about either. The game really shows its strength in terms of gameplay, as the AI are a bit more smarter than the average enemies usually fight, making encounters with them a lot more fun. Plus, if you failed at a certain point, the AI enemy types would change up, making you have to rethink your strategies, which gave the game a unique take. The lower half is now complete, and is now starting to take shape. I left the boots clear, as I will be painting them later on, and same goes for the packs and pouches on his legs and belt. Now time to paint the top half of the figure. While only covering the back and torso, this will give me the look of the overalls, which is always a plus, seeing as how most of Luigi's outfit is a pair of overalls. Judgment Baird has a different insignia in the middle of his chest plates. I believe it's more of a naval cog unit insignia, but just like the Crimson Omen on Mario, I'll leave that insignia on the armour to give the feel that Luigi is conscripted into the cog army. If you are a fan of Gears and have played Judgment, you would know the huge plot hole within the game, as the Lancer Mark II, which is the chainsaw bayonet lancer, appears in the game heavily. This game was set before the chainsaw bayonet was even created, according to canon and lore. But a lot of fans have just put this down to Baird retelling the story and exaggerating details. Because let's face it, it's what he'd do. With all the blue painting finished, the custom is really starting to come along nicely. The blue looks a bit too bright in contrast to Luigi's usual navy blue overalls, but this still looks great. Next I move on to the boots. Using the same brand of paint, but brown, I begin painting. For whatever reason, the shade of brown I used for my Mario custom, which was perfect especially for the boots, vanished, so I had to settle with a different shade. It still looks good, but it isn't the correct shade or the tone that I wanted. I may go back and correct the colour at a later point, but like I've already said, different shades and tones can always help give the figure its own unique character. This won't be a simple recoloured Mario, as was Luigi when he first started out, but instead Luigi. His own character, his own custom, his own cog soldier. With the boots painted, the lower half is 90% complete and bringing the figure to life, bit by bit. I always take my times when doing customs, and I always double check my work to ensure I'm happy with the progress. And these customs are just so much fun to make, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. To finish off the lower half of the body, I use the same shade of brown to paint the packs and pouches on the legs and belt. Once painted, I finish the look off with a tiny bit of detail, giving off a brass buckle look. I do this for each pouch and also for the straps holding the packs on the belt. I paint the chest plates yellow to represent the yellow buckles that Luigi has on his dungarees. Yellow is such a horrendous colour to paint with, so this circular plate took multiple layers. Painting these plates really gives off the finer details that brings this custom together. When finished, it looks great. And with only the arms left to paint, this custom is almost finished. Luigi's green is what I'd call a bit of a dark lime green. I decided to use my two acrylic greens, dark and lime, and mix them together until I got close to the tone of green I need. The finished green I got was a bit darker than I originally wanted it to. I think at the time I was mixing under a bright light and made the paint look closer to Luigi's green than it actually was. It still looks great though, and kind of goes with the tone of not getting any of the colours right, in my opinion anyway. It doesn't take anything away from the figure for me though. It still looks great and I've still had a lot of fun creating him. Just like the legs, the arms needed multiple more layers than expected due to the fabric textures and all the ridges on the armour. The green is definitely darker than I intended it to be, but honestly when seeing the progress at this point, it's hard not to get excited about how good it's looking. It's always worth making sure you're happy with the progress and work you are doing. This is why taking your time, especially with painting, is key in creating customs. With the arms finished, this custom is really starting to take shape. To finish off the look of the undershirt under the dungarees, I paint the collar and neck area the same green. Making sure not to get any of the green onto the already painted blue. It's not a big issue if it gets onto the neck, as you will soon get to find out why. With the collar and neck area finished, it really brings the look together, leaving only the hands left to paint. As stated before, I often check in on my progress to make sure I'm happy with the work being done and that I don't need to redo anything. At this point, the custom is 90% complete, and I couldn't be happy with how it's looking. And don't mind headless Luigi in the corner, he's just gathering his head. I mentioned that you'd find out why it wouldn't matter if I got paint on the neck. This is why. Look how ridiculous it looks. Could you imagine this as the final look? To correct this, I need to remove the neck completely. Using my hobby knife, I carve the neck out until it's completely removed. And doesn't look silly when I place Luigi's head onto the neck joint. Being careful not to cut into the surrounding armour or slicing into the meaty flesh of my fingers, which has happened on many occasions. With the neck cut out, I place Luigi's head into place to ensure that it sits nicely and looks good. And good is certainly what it's looking. I paint the neck black to cover up the brown plastic and trial how it looks with the head in position. The final part left to paint are the hands, so I cover these in white to give the look of Luigi's white gloves. White is another colour I don't enjoy painting in. It applies in thick layers and doesn't look great when it dries. If I had more time, I'd have watered the paint down and just done multiple layers, but I've been trying to get this custom complete before the end of this month. And unfortunately I've been hit with some setbacks this month. But it's all good, and now time to get Luigi done. I don't have a time frame to get my customs finished, but I tried to give myself a custom a month to work on. I've also been meaning to show off more of my collection, but due to these setbacks, I haven't had time to plan and prepare for those videos. So for now and for the foreseeable months, you are stuck with my custom videos. And odd gaming video. With the gloves now finished, it marks a huge step in getting the custom completed and really finishes the look of the armour. The Baird figure has a circle in the centre of the belt, so I decided to place Luigi's L logo exactly in this spot. It looks great and gives that tiny bit of detail to the figure. With all the main painting completed, I take one final step back to observe my progress, check if I need to tweak anything or correct any mistakes made, but as always, it's looking awesome so far. Now it's time to attach the head. The look is finally complete. Luigi has his head, his painted armour, but isn't quite finished yet. Using the Citadel colour Sunafang steel, I'll add chip marks and scratches to the armour to give the feel of a hardened soldier and battle-worn armour. I do this all over the figure, on the edge and ridges of anything sticking out where scratches and chips would realistically occur. This is such a small and minor bit of detail that gives off big effects and finalises the figure perfectly. The figure looks great without these added detail, so it isn't a must, but for me I want to keep the feel of these characters having lived in the Gears universe and fought hard on the battlefield. I want to be able to have these displayed with other official Gears figures, and other than the bright colours and obvious character, have them not stick out with what looks like spotless and new armour. I can't wait to have Luigi finally finished and displayed alongside my Mario. Having the two of them together is going to look awesome. And for anyone interested in seeing that sneak peek, I will tag in the description a link for an interview between myself and my good friend and fellow customizer, LJ. I credited him in my last video for the inspiration for the Flame Boomer. Once a month he does a show on his Instagram where he interviews customizers and we talk about all things Gears, custom figures collection and how it all started. I show off parts of my collection and show off some of my first customs, so please, if you have the time and are interested, click the link. I decided not to give Luigi a wash to dirty up the armour. As like with my Mario, I wanted to keep a bit of the bright side of the Super Mario games and decided on keeping the armour clean but scratched. It's amazing how awesome this bit of detailing is and makes the custom look so much better. I think this is my favourite part of customising, making these small, finer details that improves the figure so much. Every cog soldier needs a weapon, so time to give Luigi his. I didn't want to give Luigi a Lancer, as Mario already had one, and seeing as how Luigi is classed as having a range attack in the Mario and Rapids games, the closest thing to sniper within that game, I thought giving him the long shot, the Gear Sniper, would be very fitting. I want them all to have different weapons, like in Mario and Rabbids, with varying abilities. So let's give Luigi his very own long shot. I painted the long shot in the same colour as Luigi, to match his armour. And this gun looks amazing. I wasn't sure on whether or not to paint these hand tools to match the figure or leave them as they are. I decided to paint the handles in different colours to keep with the feel of the figure, but left the rest as it already looks like used metal. Before I show the finished custom, here's the most scariest thing you'll see today. You've sat through my terrible jokes and clips. Now I'll reward you with the finished figure. Luigi.
I'm a Luigi.
Luigi's colour didn't turn out as originally planned, but looking at him you can still tell who it is, and the colours are only slightly out, but I'm really happy with this final look. These guys are so much fun to create and I'm enjoying every moment so far. Thank you all for joining me and seeing how I created my Luigi Gears of War crossover custom. If you would like to see more on a daily basis, head over to my Facebook or Instagram account. Thank you once again, and as always, stay safe.
Oh, yeah! You piece of shit!